Hi everyone. I'm Mateo, and I like to draw. I wouldn't normally be doing this, but my sister Izzy has challenged me to share my art, or something. Anyway, in these videos, I will show you how I draw some stuff, and hopefully it will inspire you to do the same. You can draw along if you feel like it, so get a pencil out, or something. This is Draw with Mateo. Today, I was thinking we could draw Zoe's best friend in the dream world. Her gryphon, or whatever he is, Zian. I'm not sure how they met, but knowing Zoe, it was probably during some wild dream bandit shenanigans. Ever since I've known them, they've been inseparable, so they must have gone through a lot together. Anyways, we can start with some basic shapes, like an oval for his head. I learned this new tip recently for drawing faces. If you draw a cross in the middle of the head, you can see where the center of the face is and know where to put the eyes and stuff. Using the lines as a guide, we can draw a diamond for his beak and some ovals for his eyes. He's got a cool headdress, I guess, on his forehead. We can just draw that as a triangle for now. And here are his ears. I wonder if he has any special hearing abilities. I really don't know as much about gryphons as I probably should. I never expected to need to know anything about them. I think a circle would work for his chest for the time being, and then maybe a smaller oval for the rest of his body because it gets a bit smaller as it goes back. We can use rectangles for his legs. One can go backward, another can come forward. And then let's put a cube at the end. Eventually, this will be his paw, like he has his leg raised in the air a little bit. Since one leg is raised, the other probably needs to come straight down to the ground. Otherwise, he would fall on his face. So one longer rectangle should work. And another cube for his paw. Zian's stomach kind of comes up like this. Kind of like an avocado? If you learn one thing from this, it's that Zian's body is shaped like an avocado. I'm just kidding. Sometimes our drawings can look a little funny until we go back and add some detail. You can either let it worry you, or you can laugh about it and know that it's just part of the process. Now, the final foot is basically the same as the back foot we just drew, except some of it is blocked behind his body, so we don't see all of it. Time for the wings. We can just draw a long straight line outwards from his back. One thing I try to do when drawing long lines is keep my wrist locked and only move my shoulder and my arm. It helps my lines to be a little straighter. I'm gonna use almost a kind of a half oval to finish sketching out the wing. I'll do the same for the other side too. Flying on Zian takes a little getting used to. If I hadn't desperately needed to escape the Night Hunter when I first rode Zian, I would have probably been a little more hesitant to hop on his back. But I guess sometimes necessity is the best teacher. The last part is the tail. It kind of loops around and gets wider at the end. So I'm gonna use a big circle for now to represent the tip. And then we'll see if it feels like the right size later. Okay, it's time for the details. We should probably press a little harder with our pencils now as we touch things up. Zian has some cool lashes that come off the corner of his eye. We can draw in a couple of circles for his pupils and his... what's the other circle called? The colored part. I can't remember. All I know is we need 2 circles in his eyes. Zian has big, beautiful eyes. I was going to say gryphons in general, but I don't know if there are more like him. I'm not even sure which realm he comes from. I'm gonna retrace his beak and make it darker. And I guess I could shade it in as well. Same with his... irises. That's the word I was looking for. Irises. I feel like I always forget that. Okay, focus, Mateo. The headdress actually cuts down from the top, like a V, and drops behind another diamond. I've heard that some comic book artists assign certain shapes to their characters when designing them. Then they try to fit that shape into the character's design as much as possible. So if I was designing Zian for one of my comics, his shape would probably be a diamond. We just need to go over the ears, and then we are basically done with the head. maybe add a couple of his triangle markings under his eyes. It's kind of fitting for his mystical dream creature vibe. He shrieks like an eagle but purrs like a cat. It's really something else. Somehow Zoe manages to understand what he's saying, which doesn't really surprise me because me and Z-Blob are the same way. Minus the shrieking part, of course. When we trace over the body, we should be sure to overlap his front leg that is farthest from us. That way, we can tell that it's partially hidden behind his chest. We can darken the lines of the leg. And for his toes, we can use small arched lines, so they almost look like circles. And then add triangles for claws. I've watched a couple of GryphonZzz catch the business end of those claws before, and let's just say I was happy I wasn't them. Zian may be, as Izzy likes to put it, a super duper cutie patootie, but you definitely do not want to be on his bad side. He's totally a bird of prey. Wait, is he actually part bird? I really need to read up on griffins, or ask Zoe for a crash course. Zian has some metal cuffs, which we should add in. Each has a couple of triangles on it. We can also put some feathery textured markings on his chest, kind of like this. Now, Zian's wings don't actually look like the way we have them. Inside the shape we made, there's kind of like a slanted rectangular something that's his actual wing. His feathers come off of that and extend out to the half oval we created before. That's going to be our guide. As the feathers come closer to his body, they get smaller and closer together. Once all the feathers are drawn in, we can go back and touch up the areas where they meet the wing. While we're here, let's finish up the back legs. Basically, it's the same thing we did for the front legs. Go over the lines and draw in the toes and claws. Here's his stomach, which will overlap the back leg that is farther away. Then for that leg, well, you know the drill by now. Let's touch up the tail. I think the sizing of it works pretty well, so we'll keep it and add some of his armor bands. I don't know if he always had those, or if Zoe found them for him in her cave of treasures, but they're pretty cool. You wouldn't believe what she has in there. You also wouldn't believe the massive amount of traps that she has set up to keep intruders out. I wonder if she has ever triggered her own trap though. You know, like she caught herself? What if she sneezed but forgot the tissue box was rigged? And suddenly she's wrapped up in a net dangling from the ceiling. I mean, something like that is kind of inevitable, right? Anyways, we're getting down to the finishing touches now. Zian has a moon symbol on his shoulder. I wonder if it's like a birthmark. He also has some stripes on his legs, basically where the joints are. We can shade them in, and continue to shade in a couple more areas where his feathers are darker. Hopefully the lines that we drew when we started going back over everything are heavy enough so that they don't get lost in the shading. If they do, that's okay. It just means we need to go over them again. I've never thought about this before, but I wonder if Zoe named Zian after the color of his feathers, cyan, and she just changed it a little so it'd be a closer match to her name. It wouldn't surprise me. Zoe is definitely a bit more sentimental than she lets on. And Zian has a big heart. And a big stomach. That guy can eat. There are 4 triangle symbols on his wings. At the end of them is another moon. So maybe it's not a birthmark. Maybe that's just a griffin thing? I wonder if he has a family, and if they have the same markings too. His other wing looks the same, But because it is partially hidden from view behind his head, we can only see 3 of the triangles. Oh, I think I missed a couple of spots on his chest. Let me fill those in real quick. Maybe one last detail we can add to Zian would be some texture on his feathers. We can do that with some simple directional lines. We don't need these guiding lines around the wings anymore, so you can erase them if you want. That'll allow us to see the wings more clearly. And there you go, that's Zian. The last thing we need to do is draw a little bit of ground under his feet. It doesn't have to be too detailed, just enough to get the point across. I used to always forget to do this, but my art teacher would just keep pointing it out to me until finally it became a habit. And I see the value of it. It makes the piece feel more like a composition than just a singular thing on a page. Even though, you know, it basically is just a singular thing on a page. But yeah, I'd say we're done. Well, I hope you liked that, or at least felt just a little inspired to try it out yourself. Izzy has told me to say this. Your art doesn't need to be perfect, just as long as you have fun doing it and you like it yourself. Join me in another video for another drawing. There, Izzy! I did it! Are you happy now?